The cursed voice note I should have never played. February 2021.
A digital audio file was uploaded to a freelance technician's inbox with no sender information, no message, and no metadata that could identify its origin.
It was only 8 seconds long. No music. No static. Just the sound of a faint exhale, followed by a whisper that said a name. The name belonged to the technician himself, a man named Daniel Reeves, who had never shared his full name publicly online. The discovery of that file set off one of the strangest and most unsettling digital cases ever recorded in southern England. What began as a technical curiosity soon spiraled into an investigation involving digital forensics, missing persons, and a pattern of unexplained auditory phenomena that continues to baffle experts to this day. Discovery. Portsmouth, England, early 2021. The kind of winter that soaks through your sleeves. The streets damp, the air sharp, and the sound of wind slipping through cracked windows like someone sighing behind glass. Daniel Reeves, 32, worked from his one-bedroom flat on the top floor of an old Victorian building near St. Mary's Road. He was a quiet man, polite, meticulous, with the cautious nature of someone who spent too much time listening to the smallest details. His job, freelance audio restoration, cleaning up corrupted files, repairing damaged recordings, and recovering lost voices from broken devices. He worked mostly with journalists and private families, people who wanted one last recording of a loved one to sound clear again. He liked that kind of work. It was quiet, predictable. Until that evening. At 9:46 p.m., Daniel received an email from an address he didn't recognize, no-reply at voicenote.uk. The subject line was short, just 3 words. Can you fix this? Attached was a file titled recording_04_11.wave. No context, no message, no signature. He downloaded it almost absent-mindedly. The file size immediately caught his attention, 15.2 megabytes for a recording that was listed as only 8 seconds long. Normally, that kind of discrepancy means data corruption or embedding, sometimes audio hidden inside other layers. He dragged it into his workstation, adjusted the gain, and hit play. A faint hiss filled the room, soft and uneven. At first, it sounded like background static or wind moving through cloth. But beneath it, something shifted, a tone that seemed alive, as though someone was standing close to the microphone but trying not to breathe too loudly. Then, at the 5-second mark, the whisper came. Daniel. He stopped. For several seconds, he sat still, staring at the waveform. His headphones hung loosely around his neck. The voice was unmistakable, calm, almost curious, but what froze him was that it said his name. Not Dan, not Mr. Reeves. His full name. He hadn't introduced himself to the sender. His business email didn't include it. Even his website listed him only as D. Reeves Audio. Daniel replayed it, thinking he'd misheard. The same breath, the same soft exhale, the same whisper. But when he played it the 3rd time, something strange happened. The waveform distorted, a brief surge, like a digital pulse running through the file. Then the entire program lagged for half a second before returning to normal. That night, Daniel wrote a note in his logbook. 8-second recording, female whisper, says my name. Possibly data corruption. He didn't mention the creeping sense that the whisper had sounded familiar. The next morning, he forwarded the file to a friend, Maya Turner, a digital forensic specialist with the Hampshire Constabulary. She occasionally consulted him on sound evidence and police cases, and he trusted her expertise. His message read, "Can you run a frequency map? Voice feels off." She replied within hours, asking where he'd gotten it. Daniel explained, an anonymous client, a strange file, no context. That evening, she called him. Her voice was different, not analytical, but uneasy. Dan, it's not just a voice. I ran a spectrogram on it. There's something embedded visually in the frequency bands. He frowned. What do you mean visually? I mean it forms an image. A face. When Daniel opened the same spectrogram on his end, he saw it too, faint but undeniable. The upper frequencies shaped like a blurred outline of eyes, nose, mouth. The kind of thing that makes your stomach drop, not because it's impossible, but because you can't explain it rationally. He told himself it was coincidence, or maybe compression artifacts, data anomalies that mimic patterns. Still, he saved the image. That night, long after midnight, while editing another file, Daniel heard something coming from his laptop even though all windows were closed. A soft breath. A whisper. He unplugged his headphones. The sound continued. He shut down the computer, disconnected the power, and still faintly, it persisted, like someone whispering from inside the casing. At 2:37 a.m., his phone buzzed with a new message. It came from an unknown number. No text, just an audio file. He pressed play. The same breathing. The same whisper. Play it again. Escalation. By morning, Daniel looked like a man who hadn't slept in days. His eyes were red, his hands shaking. The first thing he did was call Maya. She answered on the first ring. It happened again, he said. I got another one. He sent it to her. Within an hour, she responded. Same acoustic signature. It's the same voice. But this time, when she overlaid both recordings, the original and the new one, she noticed subtle shifts in the waveform. The second file wasn't identical, the whisper was closer, the breath louder, as if the speaker had moved a few inches toward the microphone. Daniel began to suspect the file was adaptive, like something reacting to being played. He tested it repeatedly, isolating frequencies, running deconvolution filters. Each playback grew marginally different. The breath began syncing with his own exhale, like it was mirroring him. He tried sending the file to another system. Same result. 2 nights later, he began receiving more emails from the same no-reply at voicenote.uk address. Every message contained a new file, each one shorter than the last 8 seconds, then 5, then 3. Every subject line said the same thing. Play me again. At this point, Maya escalated it to her department. She classified it under digital harassment, potential psych trauma, but quietly flagged it for deeper review. The metadata trail led to something far stranger. The original source of the file, according to IP traces, matched the last known login of a missing person, a woman named Emily Carter from Dorset. Emily had disappeared 3 months earlier while hiking near Winfrith. Her phone was found at the edge of the forest, battery dead, SIM removed. The last audio message she'd sent to her sister was 8 seconds long. When they compared the waveform, it matched Daniel's file perfectly. Same duration. Same breathing pattern. Same whisper tone. Only now, in Daniel's version, the voice said his name. Daniel stopped going outside. Neighbors complained about lights flickering in his apartment through the night. Some said they could hear faint crying through the vents. Police conducted a wellness check. He opened the door looking pale and feverish, mumbling about the sound being alive. When asked to hand over his devices, he refused, saying the files were too loud to touch. The next day, Maya went to see him herself. He was sitting in front of his laptop, staring at a waveform. The speakers emitted a low hum, steady, rhythmic. He didn't look away when she called his name. She's here, he whispered. She wants me to listen. Maya gently reached for the power button, but before she touched it, the hum changed pitch, rising, then cracking, like a scream muffled underwater. The waveform on screen shifted violently, forming what looked like an ear. She yanked the plug. The screen went black. When she looked back, Daniel's chair was empty. Revelation. Daniel Reeves was officially reported missing 2 days later. His apartment showed no sign of forced entry. His phone, laptop, and hard drives were still on the desk, all powered off. The only oddity, a small USB drive labeled play. Inside was one audio file, timestamped the night of his disappearance. It was 8 seconds long. Forensic analysis determined that the voice wasn't purely digital. Embedded within the waveform were ultrasonic frequencies, well above human speech range, consistent with military-grade transmission noise. Some suggested it could have been a test signal or an interference pattern from classified equipment. But no one could explain the voice. When analyzed spectrally, the whisper shifted form depending on who was listening. Some claimed it said their names. Others heard nothing but breath. Dr. Leonard Graves, an acoustics expert at the British Library Sound Archive, was brought in for consultation. He was skeptical until he isolated a low-frequency band that shouldn't have existed in an 8-second file. When he amplified it, he reportedly heard his own name faintly spoken back. Minutes later, he collapsed in the lab, disoriented and partially deaf in his left ear. His final statement before hospitalization was brief. "It's still speaking." Following that incident, all materials related to the Reeves case were sealed under the UK's Digital Evidence Act. The cursed voice note, as it became known internally, was moved to a restricted archive accessible only to forensic audio specialists. However, leaks soon appeared online, fragments of the file shared on obscure forums and conspiracy subreddits. Most were obvious fakes, but one 8-second clip uploaded anonymously to the deep web bore the same acoustic fingerprint as the original. It said that when played through headphones, the recording slightly alters its tone after each playback, as though reacting to the listener's breathing. When investigators checked the upload source, they found it was registered under an old, dormant domain, voicinity.uk, now offline. The last access log? A timestamp matching the exact hour Daniel Reeves vanished. The cursed voice note remains sealed in a secured server known as Vault A9 under the UK Digital Forensics Division. Every few months, the file's metadata shows an unauthorized reactivation, short bursts of playback data, always 8 seconds long. No user activity is recorded. The original sender was never identified. The missing person, Emily Carter, was never found. As of 2024, the case is still listed as unresolved. But some former technicians claim that once in a while reviewing random data logs, they still see fragments of that waveform appearing in unrelated files. 8 seconds. A whisper. A name that doesn't belong. If you ever receive a message that says, "Can you fix this?" think twice before you press play.